Hey guys, DC Network here, coming at you with another video. If you guys have been watching this channel from its inception, you might remember that around 6 or 7 years ago, I made a few videos about Cartoon Network potentially owning other franchises and how they would be different if Cartoon Network was the parent company that was in charge of them. I did a video saying what if Cartoon Network owned SpongeBob, what if Cartoon Network owned Danny Phantom, and today I wanted to bring back this series, talking about what if Cartoon Network owned Avatar The Last Airbender, because I think the franchise would be drastically different today than what it is now, with Paramount aka Nickelodeon owning the rights to the franchise. As we all know, Avatar The Last Airbender is a massive media franchise that is really popular amongst the masses, and quite frankly, I'm a bit surprised at how Nickelodeon has handled it over the years, given that it is so popular and they really haven't done all that much with it. I never really watched the franchise growing up when it was on the air. I actually did watch Avatar The Last Airbender and The Legend of Korra this past summer for the first time. I have reviews for both of them up on the channel, which I'll leave above in the card if you want to check those out, but nevertheless, I think one major difference would be if Cartoon Network owned Avatar The Last Airbender, there would be a lot more Avatar at this current point in time. So if we look at the timeline for what Nickelodeon has done with the franchise, the original Avatar aired in 2005 and it concluded all the way back in 2008. They didn't make any sort of sequel series right away, which honestly I'm rather surprised by, because I think a good parallel we can use here for Avatar is Ben 10. I think Cartoon Network would have handled Avatar in a very similar fashion to how they handled Ben 10. So Avatar The Last Airbender got nothing after it ended in 2008. Instead of making a sequel series for the show, Nickelodeon decided that they're going to make a live action movie instead titled The Last Airbender, which came out in 2010. And that was the sole Avatar project that was being worked on at that point in time, which I find to be rather odd, because if we again take a look at Ben 10, what was going on with Ben 10 around that same point in time? The original Ben 10 aired all the way back in 2005, and it also concluded in 2008 just like Avatar. But unlike Avatar, in addition to the original series being ongoing and being worked on behind the scenes, they were also working on Ben 10 Secret of the Omnitrix, a animated movie within the world of Ben 10 that came out in 2007, and also in 2007 they came out with Ben 10 Race Against Time, a live action adaptation or a live action movie within the world of Ben 10. So just like Avatar got its live action film, so did Ben 10, but it happened concurrently at the same time it was being developed with the original series. And Ben 10 also got a sequel series in Alien Force in 2008. So I think if Cartoon Network had owned Avatar, we'd be seeing something very similar to that, with the original series ongoing the same timeline that Ben 10 was ongoing. We get a live action film, maybe a movie as well, and they would probably have a sequel series come out at some point in 2008, presumably following Aang and the rest of the Avatar characters from the original series, either in their late teens or being young adults. I think that's the route that Cartoon Network would have gone down with Avatar, given that with Ben 10, obviously we saw with the original series he was 10 years old, and he got aged up to be 15 in Alien Force. If we again look at the timeline for Avatar The Last Airbender, we did eventually get a sequel series in 2012 titled The Legend of Korra, which had a 2-year run concluding in 2014. Quite frankly, if I'm being honest, I don't think this series would have ever existed if Cartoon Network was the owner of Avatar. I feel like The Legend of Korra is a bit of an interesting series for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, I will say I did like the show. I don't think it's as good as Avatar was, but it still is a very good show in its own right. But the reason why I say it's a bit of an interesting series is because within the world of Avatar, lore-wise, it makes sense that at some point down the line, you'd want to follow the next Avatar after Aang has passed away, after the characters from the original show are really out of their prime and are not really in the spotlight anymore. That makes sense for this franchise, and you can get to see the evolution of the world. But at the same time, I feel like that being the sequel series to the original series is just a weird path to go down. Instead of having a sequel series following the original cast from the original show, I think that would have been a better route to go down. It would have been a way to build the franchise and make it more and more popular and get the original audience involved. Obviously, if we look at the franchise today, there is a live action Avatar series that came out on Netflix earlier this year, and they are developing Aang The Last Airbender, which is a movie coming out in 2026. That's essentially what I'm describing here in what they should have done in a sequel show. It's going to be a movie following Aang and the rest of the characters as young adults, and we'll get to see what they were like at that point in the timeline. But again, I feel like that would have been the move for the sequel to Avatar The Last Airbender, and I think that's what Cartoon Network would would have done. The weird thing to me, at least, about the way Nickelodeon has handled this over the past, 20 years at this point almost, is Avatar The Last Airbender, as I said before, was a popular series when it came out. I would argue it's probably more popular today than it was back when it came out in 2005, but nevertheless, it was a huge series back in the day, and I feel like Nickelodeon kind of handled it in a lackluster manner, making an original series, obviously, that started the whole thing, making a live-action film after that, then a sequel series in 2012, a whopping 6 years after the original show ended. I feel like Cartoon Network would have steamrolled past that. They would have done a lot more with the franchise, similar to what we saw with Ben 10, how we saw Ben 10 basically never have anything more than a 6-month hiatus during their run of the original continuity. We had the original Ben 10 air from 2005 to 2008, then we had Alien Force air from 2008 to 2010, then Ultimate Alien from 2010 to 2012, then Omniverse from 2012 to 2014, and obviously after that's when, things go downhill when the reboot happens and all that. We get a big hiatus, and obviously we're dealing with a huge hiatus right now. But on top of that, we had a myriad of films. We had 2 live action films, 2 animated films as well. And meanwhile, you look at Avatar and they really didn't do all that much with it, which I feel like right now, if you look at it, I think Viacom and, Paramount, that company, the parent organization of Nickelodeon, they're realizing that they've kind of missed some opportunities with Avatar because they founded the whole Avatar Studios a few years back. Obviously, we're getting the Aang movie coming out in 2026. There's other rumors out there of different TV shows coming, different movies coming in the future. If you guys want, maybe I'll make a full video diving into all of that. But I think they're starting to realize that, hey, we kind of missed the mark when it comes to Avatar because we could have done a lot more with this franchise than we actually did with it. And I think if Cartoon Network had owned Avatar, they would have never stopped making Avatar content. We would have gotten a sequel series in 2008. That live action film probably would have come out in 2008 or 2007, in addition to having a animated movie as well, just like we saw with Ben 10. They probably would have had the sequel show start maybe a week or two after the original Avatar ended, showing the Avatar gang, that cast of characters in their late teens or in their young adult years. Then we probably would have seen another show after that that would have continued that. And as I said before, I don't think we would have ever seen The Legend of Korra because I think Cartoon Network would have kept wanting to build on the original cast of Avatar and get the people who love those characters to stay involved with the series. And quite frankly, I feel like that's a better way to handle it. I don't want to complain about the way they made The Legend of Korra and the fact that they're probably going to make another Earth Avatar series after that, because I think that's a really cool way to evolve and develop your world. But at the same time, I feel like the way to build a franchise is to not abandon those characters you introduced in the original show, because everyone loves Aang, Katara, Zuko, Sokka, and so on, Toph, and all the other characters from the original cast. It's just rather strange to me that after the original series, Nickelodeon decided to abandon these characters and essentially ignore them outside of live action until this Avatar movie comes out in 2026. But nevertheless, let me know down in the comment section below what you guys think about all this. Do you guys agree with me that Cartoon Network would have handled Avatar the same way they handled Ben 10? Or do you disagree with me and think they would have done something completely different with it had they owned the franchise? If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to see more content like this from DC Network. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.